We run every 2 years because they intended for us to be closest to the people. The president was given different duties and powers. The president was given the duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is what does that mean to you, that the laws be faithfully executed? We know the president can veto a bill for any reason or no reason. We know the president can refuse to defend the constitutionality of a statute, even one that he signs into law. We know the president can issue pardons for violations of the very laws that we pass. And we know that the president has prosecutorial discretion as evidenced and used through his U.S. attorneys. Mr. Speaker, that is a lot of power. What are we to do when that amount of power is not enough? What are we to do when this president or any president decides to selectively enforce a portion of a law and ignore other portions of that law? What do we do, Mr. Speaker, regardless of motivation, when a president nullifies our vote by failing to faithfully execute the law? How do we explain waivers and exemptions and delays in a bill passed by Congress and affirmed by the United States Supreme Court? How do we explain away a refusal to enforce mandatory minimums that were passed by Congress and affirmed by the Supreme Court? And why pursue, Mr. Speaker, immigration reform if presidents can turn off the very provisions that we pass? You know, in the oath that brand new citizens take, it contains 6 different references to the law. If it's good enough for us to ask brand new citizens to affirm their devotion to the law, is it too much to ask that the president do the same? If a president can change some laws, can he change all laws? Can he change election laws? Can he change discrimination laws? Are there any laws under your theory that he actually has to enforce? What is our recourse, Mr. Speaker? What is our remedy? Some would argue the framers gave us the power of the purse and the power of impeachment, but Mr. Speaker, those are punishments, those are not remedies. What is the remedy if we want the executive to enforce our work? This bill simply gives us standing when our votes are nullified. This bill allows us to petition the judicial branch for an order requiring the executive branch to faithfully execute the law. Mr. Speaker, we are not held in high public esteem right now. Maybe members of Congress would be respected more if we respected ourselves enough to require that when we pass something, it be treated as law. Maybe we would be more respected if we had a firmly rooted expectation that when we pass something as law, it be treated as law. Maybe we would be more respected if we put down party labels and a desire to keep or retain or acquire gavels and picked up the history, the tradition, and the honor of this, the people's house. Mr. Speaker, the House of Representatives does not exist to pass suggestions. We do not exist to pass ideas. We make law. And while you are free to stand and clap when any president comes into this hallowed chamber and promises to do it with or without you, I will never stand and clap when any president, no matter whether he's your party or mine, promises to make us a constitutional anomaly and an afterthought. We make law.
We will make America great again.
Dr. Lurie, I want to read you a quote and you tell me if you can tell me who the author of this quote is. Beginning with the development of a strategy, my role can be defined as helping our country to be ready for any kind of adverse public health event, including a response to any challenges the future may bring. Do you know who said that? Who? You did. That's exactly right. In Penn Medicine article. And your bio page says that you are the Secretary for Preparedness and Response, and your work has included evaluating public health preparedness, conducting 32 tabletop exercises on hypothetical crises such as smallpox, anthrax, botulism, plague, pandemic influenza. Another story on you and your career, which is an incredibly commendable career, said your job is to plan for the unthinkable. A global flu pandemic, she has a plan. A bioterror attack, she's on it. Massive earthquake, yep, she's got a plan. It's a mission that includes both science and a communication strategy. So I was sitting there, Dr. Lurie, thinking, here we have a doctor with an incredible background in medicine who also happens to have planned for crises like Ebola, whose job description also includes communication strategy. So why in the hell did the president pick a lawyer to be the Ebola czar and not you?
So I appreciate your questions. Before I answer your question, can I take just one moment to clarify my answer about the quarantine question, because I think I didn't understand it fully. CDC has ample quarantine authority to do what it needs to do. I think and it's used those authorities many, many times. The proposed regulation would have refined the process we have used, but the underlying statute already gives CDC the authority that it's needed. Okay. So with that clarification, I just wanted to...
The record is now complete with respect to your position on quarantine. Okay. Now, I want the record to be complete on why in the world the president picked a dadgum lawyer to head the Ebola crisis instead of somebody with your vast and varied background.
And I appreciate the vote of confidence. The role of the Ebola coordinator in the White House is a whole of government coordination role.
I appreciate that, Dr. Lurie, but Mr. Klain is not a doctor. He's not an osteopath. He's not a nurse. He's not an epidemiologist. He doesn't have a background in communicable disease. He doesn't have a background in infectious disease. He doesn't have a background in West Africa. So how in the world is he the best person to be the Ebola czar and not you? And I don't want to hurt her career. I do not want to hurt Secretary Burwell's career, and I fear that I will by complimenting her. But she's an incredibly bright person. One of the more capable people I have met in the last 10 years is your boss, the Secretary of HHS. Now, we disagree, in fairness to her, on lots of policy. But she actually has a background through her work, the Gates Foundation, in global health. You're a doctor. I mean, if this were an outbreak of people who don't have wills in West Africa, or if this were an outbreak on contested elections in West Africa, then I'd say, yeah, go hire Mr. Klain. But it's not. It's a medical crisis. So why not you?
So right now, I have a full-time job doing my job in the Department of Health and Human Services. I really appreciate the vote of confidence, and I have a lot of confidence in Mr. Klain.
Well, how about another doctor? How about somebody who's an expert in infectious disease, or an expert in West Africa, or the delivery of health care? I mean, God forbid we pick somebody with a background in medicine instead of a dadgum lawyer. And in the interest of full disclosure, I am one.
So with respect, I think that the role of the coordinator at the White House doesn't require a doctor. It requires somebody who is really expert at coordination and bringing the parts of government together to enhance the coordination.
Well, I'm going to make you this promise, okay? And I want you to hold me to it, okay? The next time there's an opening on the Supreme Court, I want you to see whether or not the president considers a doctor or a dentist for that job. And we actually are about to have a vacancy for our Attorney General. And I want you to consider or be mindful of whether or not